The idea that Satan is Lucifer is a very common misconception that's been popularized by culture and certain Christian traditions, but it is not supported in the biblical text, and I even have more examples for you. Between the two scriptures that I'm going to share, you will see that the basic story is the same, but the way they are told is completely different. This is 1 Chronicles 21, verse 1. Satan stood up against Israel and incited David to count the people of Israel. Okay, so what is the big deal about a census? In ancient Israel, the amount of fighting men you had could be seen as a measure of the king's strength. Doesn't sound too terrible to me, right? But according to God, taking a census is challenging his sovereignty. You don't need to know how many fighting men you have because ultimately you are in God's hands. Now here we go. Same exact story, but a completely different book. This is 2 Samuel 24, verse 1. Again, the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel, and he incited David against them, saying, "Go, count the people of Israel and Judah." Do you notice the difference? This one says the anger of the Lord. Now the Lord, we're talking about God here. This is Yahweh. We're not talking about Satan. So Yahweh was so angry that Yahweh incited David to take a census. So Yahweh wanted to punish David, and this was his means to punish him, having him take a census, and then he could exact his judgment against him. But in this verse, Satan stood up against Israel. So which is it? Why the difference? The difference of these two stories highlight the evolution of the idea of this character of Satan. In my opinion, this proves that Yahweh uses Satan because he is his creation, he is his sidekick, and Satan exacts Yahweh's justice for him. He's like the heavy-handed right-hand man. For instance, if we look back at Job, Yahweh was working with Satan to determine whether or not Job was an upright man. Now, what he did was horrible, but you can see this concept of Satan developing over time. In the Hebrew Bible, Satan works for Yahweh, but in Christianity, Satan becomes the scapegoat. So who is this Lucifer character? Guess what? It's not what you think. Interestingly enough, if you just go back to Isaiah 14, the beginning of the chapter, it tells you right here. This is referencing the downfall of the king of Babylon, the king who wanted to usurp the king of Israel. All that Isaiah is saying here about the king of Babylon is what goes up must come down. In Revelation, John refers to Jesus as the bright morning star. So now what? Are we going to say that Satan and Jesus are the same person? No, they're using poetic language.